Do you have questions about your health? Do you need to find out what's keeping you from feeling your absolute best? If so, your intuition has guided you to the right place. I am Dr. Charlize, and welcome to the Art of Healing podcast community. In this podcast, we explore all topics in health and wellness, from Reiki to functional medicine, energy medicine, chakras, and meditation. Join me every week for fresh new episodes that highlight healers, various healing modalities, and choose this as your opportunity to find what healing works best for you. If you want to learn more about me, simply Google at Dr. Charlize. Enjoy. I would like to introduce a guest for the Art of Healing podcast. Our guest for today, I'm so excited, Dr. Njideka Olatunde, pioneering holistic pain relief through reflexology and the power of touch. For over 40 years, Dr. Olatunde has been at the forefront of holistic wellness, specializing in medication-free alternatives to pain relief. As a master reflexologist and leading expert in the transformative practice of reflexology, Touchology, she has empowered thousands to break free from the cycle of pain using the power of touch as a first-line approach before treatment. With a unique blend of time-honored healing traditions and modern wellness strategies, Dr. Olatunde's work bridges the gap between natural health solutions and conventional medicine. She has trained over 2,500 reflexology practitioners, mentored countless others, and transformed 3,000 lives through her holistic pain relief methods. Dr. Olatunde has just a wealth of resources. Her website is amazing. So I'm going to put a copy of her website link here. And again, even though I'll put this in the chat because it's kind of good to have this, you all are going to get all of this later. So I was so honored that Njideka could join us today, and I really wanted her to share her wisdom in using reflexology, touchology. She's also mentioned how this could be community and family oriented. So I'm so excited. Njideka, and am I saying that correctly? Remind me
Yeah,
once again. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
I thank you for having me. It's my honor and my pleasure.
It's wonderful. I had a chance to look at your website, read your blog post. You know, the universe works out like this because even before we met, I was reading about chronic pain, looking at some of the content I had created, and this was just such a gap. And so it was just magical how you showed up. I'm so happy you're here.
Nothing
So
ever happens by accident.
it doesn't. It really doesn't. It was like you showed up right on time. I was like, perfect, manifest. So we'll start with what made you take an interest in helping people with chronic pain?
To answer your question, what happened is like when I was growing up, I grew up on home remedies. And back then, as a child, doctors kind of lived in the neighborhood. And so doctors did home visits back then. And so I wanted to be a doctor. I said, because to me, I saw doctors as healers. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. But by the time I got to college, it was a whole nother rude awakening because that's not the doctor I wanted to be.
No,
So
this is
I,
a business. Sorry.
so I changed. I
Go
changed
ahead.
my
Sorry.
career choice and went into social work. But as a social worker, one of the things that really disturbed me was the fact that everybody was going to the emergency room as their doctors. And I kept saying, there's something wrong with this picture. It kind of opened the door again for me to go back to, I want to be a doctor. And at that time, natural and alternatives were opening up. So I went back to school and trained to become a naturopathic practitioner. And so doing that process, I wanted to add a service to my practice. And that's how reflexology came into play. And how that originally got started was the fact that I was doing a study on my ancestry from my African connection to my Native American experience connection. And so I went to, I did from the Native American, they call what's a vision quest. And so I went on a vision quest. And what that is you're placed in a spot on the mountain with nature. You don't have anything. You're just out there in nature and you stay there for a period of time. But me coming from an urban area, didn't know anything about outdoors and nature and all that. That was a whole nother experience. But the essence of that is while you were there were like, insects, there were animals that came around. And so you were doing recording of this. So when I went back and we did a translation of what was going on, I was told that I needed to look to my hands. And I thought that was massage. And instead, when I went to massage, but I didn't like massage. I liked reflexology. And so that's how that kind of evolved. But from that to fast forward, I lost a lot of clients and a lot of personal colleagues to pain. And the pain was because of being on opiates, the medications. And because of that, when it got to the point that they could no longer receive pain medication, they started doing all kinds of things in terms of medicating to relieve pain. And so with a dear colleague that made transition, it opened my eyes to start looking at reflexology differently. So I got into a whole research piece on looking at how to use the power of touch to relieve pain. And the technique became reflexology. So that's how it all kind of came together, where I really put my focus on introducing reflexology as a pain relief alternative to the opiates. And that's where my work has really, where I've spent most of my time in my work as of late, dealing with that, because that was the epidemic is a crucial problem. And most people don't understand that, which is what I like what you're doing, because you're bringing the energy component to the healing process. And most people don't understand that your body is designed to heal itself. As practitioners, we work with the body by assisting it in the healing process with our modalities. And so, which means that all of the people that we see, be it patients or be it clients, there has to be that two-way connection in the healing process. And people don't understand. They only understand touch from the physical perspective. But touch is a lot deeper than physical. It's mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual. And all of that goes together when you talk about relieving pain using the power of touch.
So you knew you were a healer, and your path took you to the social work side initially.
Yes.
Which is funny to me when you say that. That just makes everything in me sing, because I'm a practicing physician. The healing modality of social work ends up being a lot of what I do. So that's where you were called. Then to become a naturopathic physician, then to reflexology, although you thought massage was where you were supposed to go, but ended up being reflexology.
That's the truth.
Perfect.
And to tell you the combination is
well, but tell me, share
Mm-hmm.
with us, because you're the first that I've had on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What is
Oh,
reflexology?
definitely.
Please define it for us. Yes, yes. What is reflexology?
Definitely. Most people don't know what it is. Reflexology is the art and science of working specific reflex nerve ending points that are found on the hands, the feet, and the ears, used to relieve stress and pain, relax the body, reduce toxins and impurities in the system as well, along with improving circulation. And the way for me to help people understand what it is I just said, think about one of the things about reflexology is that we work with the nervous system. So we're working with the nerve endings. And if you look at a chart of the anatomy and look at the nervous system, all of the nerve endings begin in your head and run straight through your body, ending in your hands, feet, and ears. And on your hands, feet, and ears are nerve points that correspond to various organs, systems inside the body. We locate those points on the hands and feet to be about doing a reflexology session. Now, to bring it home so that it makes it a little clearer, I like for people to think about it from the standpoint of in your house, you have wiring and you turn on the switch and all of a sudden the lights come on. But if you turn on the switch and the lights don't come on, because all of you all are babies, you don't even know about this. In the old days, when the lights didn't come on, we had to do what was called a fuse. So you had to put a fuse in a box and all of a sudden the lights would come back on. But today, for all of you young people, you now have what's called the circuit breaker. So you go flip the switch and the electricity comes on. But I say that to say is, if the wiring and you did all of that and it doesn't work, you have to call an electrician. So the electrician would be looking for what is the wire that's defective, so you're no longer getting the energy flow that produces the electricity. That's what a reflexologist is doing. We are looking for that blockage in that nerve ending that's the contributor to the pain, so that we can move that blockages out of that nerve ending so that you're no longer able to feel pain. Now, let me share something with you. Everybody has done reflexology and they don't know that they have. Think about it like this. We have a funny bone in our elbow. Mm-hmm. And when you hit it, what's the first thing you do?
Go, ow.
There you go.
You know that pain is coming and then it comes.
The first thing you're going to do is what you said, a verbal response. Yes. And with the verbal response, message travels up the nerve and goes to the brain. Trauma, discomfort in the elbow area. Then what's the next thing you're going to do?
You're going to reach over and try to rub it out.
Exactly. So when you start rubbing it, message goes to the brain, start sending the body's natural pain relievers to bring comfort to that area. And so with you rubbing it, all of a sudden, you're now feeling a sense of ease from the pain and relief. That's the process of reflexology. That's cool. How it works. And so cool. And I'm going to give another little tidbit. All of you all have actually done reflexology and don't know it. You ever heard the little thing called this little piggy?
Yes.
And parents did the little piggy, and what you would do, you would take the little toes, you start turning the little big toe, the next toe, and you're turning it. Yeah. Well, all of the nerve endings to your head are found in your fingers and in your toes. So when you're working with that little baby, doing a little circling and all that, the baby comes happy, calms down, and in some cases will even go to sleep. You just relax the body via the nerve endings in the head. So it's a common thing. It's a basic. And what do? We use what? The power of touch. We worked with the body, dealing with the communication center, which is the brain, and the energy goes up the spine through the nerve endings to the brain and communicates. And that's what we talk about when we say using the power of touch.
So is touchology the same as reflexology? Because you mentioned that in your content on your website. Or is touchology, so is that a part of the reflexology, or is this a separate practice?
Touchology is the science and art of learning how to listen mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually based on touch. That's what touchology is. Touchology is introducing the power of touch on all levels. And when I say that, what I'm talking about, physical is putting my hands on you, the physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
When I talk about mental touch, I'm talking about somebody who may be depressed or feeling down. And what do? I come and I say, everything is going to be all right. That's a form of touch verbally. You're driving in your car and, it's a tight space and somebody opens up and lets you in, and you may raise your hand up as a form of saying, thank you. That's a form of touch. Somebody opens the door for you and all of a sudden you say, thank you. And then they get a big smile on their face. That's a form of touch. So touchology is the foundation in terms of healing. It's activating the healing power in whatever way is needed, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And that's what we've got to give, because today we see touch as something negative, but guess what? Mm-hmm. As a people, we need touch. And my unscientific study about the lockdown that we went through for those 2 years, the major contributor was the lack of touch that caused a lot of people to make transition, because we weren't able to touch. Be it if I couldn't see my loved ones, that's a touch. I couldn't feel my loved ones, that's a touch. Those are the things that's so important to us in terms of healing. We need the power of touch to heal. And that's what the whole process. The therapy that I use is the reflexology, but the process is about touching. And I say that because one of the things that, and you open up and you said it so elegantly in terms of the number one reason people seek out a doctor is because they're in pain.
They are hurting. They are hurting.
If a person is in pain, the one thing they want more than anything is relief from the pain. Now, in my practice, I'm an advocate of give your patients what they want. They want pain relief, nothing else. They're not interested in anything else.
And who wants to hurt? That's what's, when I listen to other, because I try to keep a foot in both worlds. So I will be on like communities with physicians. And it's interesting to me because physicians are often upset that their patients are complaining of pain. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's what paid your bills. They are hurt. We got to stop it. That's like one of the simplest things. No one wants to hurt.
Exactly. And because of that, one of the things that I do is, that's a touching point. When my clients / patients come to me, one of the things, the first thing I do is we're going to have a listening session. All I do is just sit there and listen, because now they're talking to me about what's going on. Through me listening to them, I now understand what is the contributor to your pain. Because one of the things we've got to understand, pain and stress go hand in hand. The pain-stress connection. You can't separate this from the pain, because the reason why you have the pain is because of something that happened outside of your body that you have brought in and internalized. Once you internalize it, in our world, what happens is you now create a dysfunction inside the body, because the stress has built up in a particular area. And what it does, it goes to whatever area is weak in your body, and it's trying to use that as an outlet to release itself. So which means that if you have a joint pain, how we see it is that's toxins and impurities in that joint trying to come out of the body, but it can't come out because that's not the process of elimination. So what is it going to do? It's going to start you to hurting. But why do you have that? Because see, one thing people don't focus on, the body will always give you a warning sign before it gets into the acute, then the chronic state. You get a warning, but most of the time we don't
We
pay
don't hear it.
attention to
We
it.
don't hear it.
And
No.
when you don't pay attention, the body all of a sudden says, okay, you're not paying attention. I'm going to put you down. And that's what because of something outside of the body. So we've got to focus on that. So what I usually do with my clients is about when I'm listening to, because most people who are in chronic pain have been in it for a long time, they can't even remember when they were never in pain.
It's true.
That memory is blocked.
Yeah.
They don't even know what it even feels like to not be in pain. And so you have
when you're
to work
talking with
on
a patient that has chronic pain, that is felt always to me the most difficult because there does seem, I'm glad you said there's like an amnesia. There's
Yes.
like a blurring, and
Yes.
it's hard to take them backward to when the pain wasn't there. And sometimes you go really far back and it almost is like it was always there. And so
Yes.
it kind of wasn't there because they're talking about it now, but yeah, there's a type of amnesia. You answered my question because I was going to ask you what causes chronic pain, and you psychically tapped in and you'd answered that. I wanted to get from your stance what causes chronic pain, and you're saying internalizing an external event,
Yes.
taking it into the body, and then not hearing the warning signs, so the body begins to speak with
Yes.
discomfort and pain. Okay. Okay.
And see, another thing that we do also, and by you being a physician, this is what makes us, because I tell people one of what probably the most outstanding thing that conventional medicine does is diagnose. Now, once you get a diagnosis, what we do now is we got to look at the body system. And most of us do not know the body systems. Say, for example, if the doctor says you have asthma. So if you have asthma, the question I'm going to ask is, what part of the body is associated with asthma? And, usually you'll probably say, well, the chest, or you may say the lungs.
The lungs.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to say, what body system is connected with asthma? Most people don't know the system, but you're talking about the respiratory. When I bring that to the respiratory. So now what are we looking at? We're now looking at the respiratory system is in need of a cleansing. You need to look at cleansing the respiratory system. So now you'll be able to relieve yourself of the asthma, which is the attack part that's causing the pain. So you have to be able to connect the body systems with the diagnosis and then start focusing on what I need to do. Because one of the things about allopathic medicines, when they deal with pain, they only go, and you brought it up, I heard you say this, they only go to that area that's in pain, but that's not the cause. It's someplace else in the body. And that's how we have to understand. The other thing I tell my clients / patients, we all know how the automobile operates. We know the parts of the automobile, but did you know that the automobile is designed in the same image as your body? It operates exactly the same way. The thing that you've got to understand is when your car mechanic tells you, don't do this for the car, you don't do it. The same thing applies with the body. You've got to understand and put that connection together. You do a maintenance program for your automobile, but do you do a maintenance program for your body? Because one of the things that we don't hear anymore, back in the day, there was a thing called healthcare prevention, preventive healthcare. That's a word that's foreign. People don't even know what that means. But that's what you need to get back to if you're going to take charge of your health. I've had the opportunity to study reflexology locally, nationally, and internationally. Okay. I wrote the book, Reflexology Today, A Family Affair. And when I wrote that book, I wrote it back in about 1987. And at that time, when I wrote the book, I was on my way to China. And when I got to China, and I was studying reflexology as well there, one of the things that in China, the doctor spends anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half with each patient. And by doing that, they are listening and they are putting up. That's even before they even get to the treatment part. Then after listening, they're going to bring the family together. So when they bring the family together, what they're doing is, how do we put together a preventive treatment program for the whole family so that they will not get this particular diagnosed illness. So that was a confirmation, because when I left, I felt that at least one member in a household should know basic reflexology techniques that need to be used in terms of relieving pain. So that was like my confirmation in terms of I was on the right path, in terms of where I was headed, in terms of using your hands as the power of touch.
I did notice on your website, you did mention touch and healing as a family affair. And that part really stuck in my brain. I did share a link to your book. I just shared it in the chat just in case anyone wanted to see it, because your experience, especially that international experience, wonderful. No problem with that. Yes, you mentioned this touch and healing as a family affair. And that part really got me because, of course, I don't really get that opportunity when I'm working with my own patients. It's like this really isolating, painful, like you're hurting into your fault and you're all alone. And like, it's really like
Yes.
punishing. So tell me about this family approach, especially like during the holidays, because that's really going to be resonating with people.
Well, one of the things that I do, believe it or not, my practices are virtual.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
thanks. No, let me scratch that. It's not because of the pandemic. It put us in virtual, you know, doing everything virtually.
Hmm.
And so what I do is, in terms of working with my patients slash clients, what I do is, whatever the health area problem. Okay, say for example, like this right here on the thumb, this is where the spine is located. So if someone had a back problem, what I'm going to tell them to do is, you're going to take your thumb and you're going to do what's like a walking motion up the thumb. Same thing for the foot. You're going to walk up that side and just walk up and down. That's what we call reflexing the nerve ending to the spine. Now, it may be a specific area that's in pain. You don't know that, but it's not important, because what's important is you want to activate the nerve in that area to start relieving the stress and pain that's in the area. Now, once we get to that point, that's the first step. Then we start looking at, now let's look at, if you got lower back pain, we got to look at where else in the body is a contributor to that lower back pain. So, which means in reflexology, we work the whole body from head to toe. So you just don't work the area that's in pain. It's the whole body. And what I do is, I may bring, it could be a family member, it could be a friend. I show them how to do the reflexology technique on that person who is
Love that.
experiencing the pain. So now you have your own personal reflexologist in your home 24/7. It becomes a family affair.
That is so important. Oh my goodness. I love that because depending on your patients, what they're going through, they're really not going through it alone. So there's people that love them. And when you do that, you're giving them this power to be the healer
Yes.
and the therapeutic effect. I can't imagine how that magnifies, because when that person's suffering, they're suffering, but they've got that energetic tie to their spouse or their sibling or their friend or whoever, their child. And, typically in traditional medicine, the way we can empower families, like, well, we can educate them, we can tell them what prescriptions we're prescribed, So then that kind of limits them to like say someone who's on the cancer journey, their
Yeah,
family member might only have the most empowering thing they can do is provide the prescription and the water to take it,
yes.
call the doctor if it gets worse, then that's it. That's kind of all they can do. So I love that you give them this crazy powerful tool that when their loved one's hurting, they can come in with that lesson you gave and do some reflexology. Huge.
And it supports like the work you do because you're dealing with energy.
Mhm.
And see, that's another piece that people have to understand in terms of healing deals with energy. And it's called energy exchange. We exchange. It's not a one-way street. It's circular. It goes around. As I give, I receive. As I receive, I give. And that's what helps in terms of the family structure. Because now, because you learned some techniques that you can actually use to help that loved one, you and that loved one are now connected in oneness in the healing process, working with each other. And the same thing applies with you in terms of working with your physician. It has to be a two-way street. It cannot be, I go park my body inside the doctor's office and I tell you this is what's going on and you're supposed to do. Your doctor is not a body mechanic. You've got to stop treating your body like the automobile. It doesn't work like that. You both have to be a part of the process.
That's, I love the way you said it. I've been trying to find an eloquent way to say that to my patients, but yes, you need to be part of the energy exchange. We're getting close to 1 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and on the schedule I'd set out, I wanted to leave a little wiggle room. Njideka, are you okay with staying with us a little bit longer, or did you need to get anywhere? I wanted to make sure I
I'll
respect your
follow your
time.
lead, my dear.
So, since she's able to stay with us, because we're going for another at least 30 minutes or so, I'm going to share her website again. And can you share with us your resource, which was get the name of your
Okay, I'm
resource?
going to put, okay, let me share this with you. What I wanted to share with you is that in the African tradition, when you visit someone's home, you bring a gift. And my gift to you and your listening audience, I put it in the chat, is I have a medication and addiction-free pain relief poster that I am going to, that everyone can download. It's at Touchology, reflexology.com. And I just put it in chat for everyone. And that's for everyone in terms of giving you
Thank you.
some resources in terms of how you can find alternatives in terms of for pain relief.
That is perfect. Thank you so much. So while that link is there, if any of you want to chime in or type in a question, I've got the link. That's perfect. Thank you,
Yes,
Njideka. That's
bye bye.
perfect. Thank you. So we have any questions? Thank you so much, Lavette, for coming. Thank you. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, you also, it takes you to a drive link. It's a great resource. Thank you. I'm downloading my copy now. So thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you. So then I'm going to ask, where do you, in your opinion, in your extensive experience, where do you feel that traditional allopathic medicine misses the mark as far as chronic pain?
Um, I think it still goes back to the fact that conventional doctors are not given enough time to really connect with the patients that they see. If that connection was there, then they're more, I put it, their more humane and creative side can come out in their practice. And that's what's missing. And I say that to say, when you look at conventional medicine as it is today, and I'll share the note about that. I had the opportunity to represent America in Cuba in terms of introducing reflexology and the touchology experience.
That's
And it was with physicians and nurses that I was at this program. And when you asked me when we opened up about whether I want to be called Njideka or doctor, and I told you Njideka. And the reason
Njideka.
is because in my experience in Cuba, it kind of took me back to when I was growing up. The doctors in Cuba live in the neighborhoods with their patients. And it's a community approach. It's not that I'm the doctor. And so that's one of the major problems because, like you said, it's a business. And because it's become a business, we lost the human side of who we are as practitioners. And that's what I think is the missing piece. And that's the reason why when my clients see me, I'm always in Njideka. The doctor piece was just educational training for me personally. It has nothing to do with who I am and what I do. And that's the reason why I move that away, because I don't want the clients that I see to have that hierarchy. We're both on the same playing field. We are working together. I'm empowering you and you're supporting me. I'm supporting you and you are also empowering me. So that way we're able to do that exchange without having this hierarchy. Well, you went to school and got this training, now you got this label and this who you. That's, I think, is the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is beautifully stated. Absolutely. The older I've gotten, what I do for myself to get my empathy in check is, and I'll tell my patients this, is that they're discussing what's going on. And even if I start to feel frustrated because I don't have a quick answer or just anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
I just simply sort of snap my fingers and I become them. I imagine this is me.
Yes.
Because in a way,
Yes.
like, why wouldn't it be me? Like, why would I be?
Yes.
Why could I not experience this? And then when I put it in
Yes.
my head, it's like, actually, there's no reason why I couldn't go through this, what this person is going through. And then it becomes a little easier to understand what they're saying. And then, of course, to take action. Now, my Reiki training helped for me because
Mm-hmm.
my medical training, and at some point, I hope that I can put it into words. Most physicians know this, but the I don't think it's intentional. Maybe it is. The empathy is trained out of us. A lot of us went to medical school with empathy and it was trained out of us. I've told a few people that like that's to me some of the more painful life experiences was the medical training. And they
Mm-hmm.
tell you at the time is necessary, but when I look back on it, it's like, no, it wasn't. It did not have to be like that. And so then depending on where they are, then they have to sort of relearn or refine that empathy. Some doctors never lose it. For the most part, it's in a number of ways trained out of us, and you have to find a way to get back to it. So for me, the easiest
Mm-hmm.
is I make myself the patient. I recently had a cat, my fur baby. I had her for 21 years, and I had to
Right.
put her to sleep. It's been a few months
Right.
ago. And if I'm really finding I'm having trouble connecting with the patient, I just simply imagine a human form of my cat. I make that person
Yes.
it. Then
Yeah.
the urgency and everything
Yeah.
steps way up. Like, oh, wait a minute. Even if I don't have an answer, just understanding that this is real
Mm-hmm.
suffering. Don't turn away.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be that I'm going to have the answer, but don't turn
Right.
away. Don't tune out. Don't blame the
Right.
person. Don't, it's just like they didn't
Mm-hmm.
ask for this. So wonderful. And then let's see, I had another question. And you guys, if y'all have any questions, y'all make
Oh yeah,
sure you
by all
tune
means.
in. Absolutely. Um, got your resources here. What's the best way to stay in touch with you? For those of us that are listening, also those that are going to be on the podcast when this comes out in a few weeks, what's the best way to reach you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, the best way to reach me is I tell everyone, go to my website, focusonhealing.com, and put in the contact. If you know, if you have any questions or anything you want me to answer for you, type it into the contact. I definitely will get back to you. And also, if you want information, you can also do info at Focus on Healing Institute. I'm sorry, info, Focus on Healing Institute at gmail.com. That's where you can email me directly. But I'm available to answer any questions because the bottom line, it's about what we have to do is no, change that. It should be Focus on Healing Institute at gmail.com.
Oh, got it.
That's what it
Okay.
should be.
Focus
Focus on
on
Healing
healing
Institute at
institute
FOH.
at
Focus on Healing Institute at gmail.com. Mm-hmm. That's the
okay.
email address.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
And like I say, by all means, I'm also in the process of putting together some in 2025. I'm going to be putting together some intro training workshops so that people can learn how to do some basic reflexology themselves. And it doesn't take long to learn. It's not a long process. So that's what's coming in 2025. So I encourage you, get on a mailing list so that you can be one of the first to hear about it in terms of being trained, because I'll tell you this little trade secret. I have a program where I train young people between the ages of 16 to 18 in terms of how to do reflexology. And we're looking at moving them into it as a career choice. And the reason why I say that is because some of the best reflexologists are young people. Once they get past the touch, because young people don't touch anymore in a positive way. And the reason being is because our young people today are extremely stressed out, and they have not been shown the tools and resources available to them in terms of relieving stress. And reflexology is an easy way to introduce them to touch, as well as how they can be about healing themselves using the power of touch. And so that's a whole nother arena in terms of how we've got to prepare our young people as they move into adulthood. We all know how, okay, I can go get a massage, I can go do this, I can go do. Young people need to have those same kind of resources. It needs to be available to them. By all means, get them to learn how to do some basic reflexology, because I tell you, this is how you open up the lines of communication and breaking that generational gap. So now older people can start talking to younger people in a positive and open way, and both can learn from each other.
I love it. It's empowering young people because I don't know that they feel empowered to help their especially older relatives. This is important because we got a big chunk of the population that's not that young anymore. I mean, baby boomers. So knowing that, hopefully their grandchildren or great grandchildren would at least have the curiosity and possibly able to help them. That is so powerful.
I'll tell you my business mission, and that's what this is all about, that people need to recognize. We've got to get to the point of passing on generational health instead of illness, and generational wealth instead of poverty, because it's your birthright to have both.
Njideka, Dr. Olatunde, it has been wonderful. It has been a blessing having you on as a guest. That piece of wisdom, I think we can close your interview, but you are welcome to stay. I'd love for you to stay if you don't mind. Thank you so much for being on with us.
You're welcome.
Again,
Thank you.
I could, and I think I even felt you coming. So this was the knowledge that I've been hoping to share with the community, and hopefully you'll be on as a guest. I would love to have you on before you launch your program, if you don't mind, so we can share that some more in 2025.
Most definitely. And what I want to say to you before I leave is, and this is for your listeners to hear, we need to do an exchange, because it would be my honor and my privilege to have you as a guest on my podcast, the Touchology Wellness Experience, because I would love to be able to share with my listening audience a medical doctor who is using energy in her healing practice. My listeners would love that, because that's what we talk about.
Oh, I'd love to meet your community. I'd be honored. Thank you. Your presence again, it's like I said, you were a prayer answered. So anything you want me to do, I'm there. So count me in.
We're going to make that happen. So your listeners will be able to know that you come into the Touchology Wellness Experience. That is going to happen. And thank you so much for having me. And to your listeners, as we move into 2025, have a happy and healing 2025, knowing that you hold the power of touch, which heals all.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining during this episode of the Art of Healing podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please leave a review. Also, you can check your show notes to find out how to get a copy of this and future episodes emailed directly to your inbox, available to listen to anytime. Finally, if you have questions or wish to connect to me, check your show notes to find out how we can get connected and find out how I can be of service to you.